I took a look at some of the most beloved DMs on the planet's actual players and discovered a couple of DM techniques that they use to keep their players hooked and having fun. And these tips will help you work out for yourself how best to keep your players engaged and creating memories at the table. So let's start with DM strategy number 1. Let's talk about Brian Murphy, aka Murph, DM of the incredibly popular podcast Not Another D&D Podcast. And Murph has this amazing ability, he probably gets it from his love of video games, to make combat fun. Now, don't get me wrong, combat's always fun until it's not anymore, until it's the same old thing over and over again. What Murph manages to do is spice up each encounter, not just with terrain and obstacles, but with multiple variables that can change the direction of a fight in a second. And what he does when he wants to make combat spicy, he will place items or creatures on the map, or objects, things that the players can interact with that are entirely optional. For example, putting some wolves in cages nearby, or putting some potions on a table that the players don't know what they do. These simple additions have already given the players something else to think about outside of defeating the creatures right in front of them. Do they free the wolves? If they do, will the wolves attack them or help them? Do the players drink the potions? Will they make them stronger? Are they poison? Do they try and get the vials into the creatures' mouths? Or do they feed the potions to the wolves? It's all optional, but giving the players more things to think about in an encounter will make them pay more attention, and the uncertainty of the events will make the game a lot more fun. On top of all of that, Murph will often add time limits and stakes to encounters, so you know that in 3 rounds something bad is going to happen, making combat way more intense and compelling for the players. Let's move on to our next DM tip and take a look at Aabria Iyengar. So Aabria, if you don't know who she is, has guest DM for both Critical Role and Dimension 20, and she's popping up everywhere in the D&D space. And one thing she's known for are her scene descriptions. If Matt Mercer is known for describing things like a novel, Aabria is known for describing things like a movie. And this is especially effective because movies are a great medium for showing, not telling. And I know that's pretty funny because describing things in a cinematic way is still telling, not showing, but most D&D players want to try and visualize the world around them. So communicating in a way that's inspired by an actual visual medium gives a sense of flow and pace and style that you just would not get if you described it in any other way. And a lot of people nowadays watch a lot more stuff than they read. So it's actually a language that a lot of players are more comfortable with and fluent in. So being like a here and using cinematic language and imagery to communicate with your players will pull them in and will engage with them. It also helps that Aabria is very enthusiastic at the table. It feels like she really wants to be there, and it feels like she really wants all the players to have a great time, and that energy is infectious. Which brings us on to our next DM hook technique used by Brennan Mulligan, Dungeon Master of Dimension 20. Brennan often turns dice rolls into very stressful, big, everything or nothing rolls, where he brings out his box of doom and gets a player, or he himself, rolls in front of the entire table. And he always lets them know what DC they have to hit and what will happen if they fail. And it's moments like these where everyone at the table is dead quiet and paying attention on this roll, on this moment. Obviously, it's not something you should use for every single roll, big or small, but setting up scenarios where your players can end up with these big life or death rolls often isn't a bad thing. You just don't want to desensitize them to it. But if you watch Dimension 20, you'll see that Brennan gets to use his Box of Doom surprisingly a lot. So learning when to use it and when not to use it is probably something that you have to develop. But once you do, man, will you create memories. Okay, please subscribe, and let's move on to our next DM, Matthew Mercer, Game Master of Critical Role. And this is a great way to get your players engaged in the game and paying attention, and it's to do with how Matt communicates with his players, or more aptly, doesn't communicate with them. By this I mean there are minutes on end where Matt Mercer just does not say anything. He just sits back and lets his players roleplay with each other, chat to each other, and make in-game plans together. It often happens where, as a DM, you end up with kind of a silence and your players just look expectantly at you, like they're waiting for you to move everything forward. But what Matt does is he looks expectantly at his players and waits for them to move things forward. As a DM, we often want to push things forwards and keep a sense of momentum and pace in our games. So it's very tempted to grab every silence and take it and move to the next scene, or give them hints, or help facilitate something. But often in these moments, the players are just thinking about something or waiting for someone else to speak, And if you let that silence go long enough, they will fill it and end up having great roleplay moments and great communication together. The DM's not even necessary at this point, and Mercer proves this in every single game he's in. Now, you do have to know your table quite well. You don't want to make it a very awkward situation or putting people who maybe don't want to roleplay or who are very shy into the spotlight when they don't want to be. But if your table's all relatively comfortable with each other, then yeah, sometimes just shutting up as a DM can lead to some of the best D&D memories being created. And there's no better way to keep your players engaged in the game than having them engaged with each other. Now, obviously, as with everything in D&D, these tips won't work with every player and every table. And if they don't work for you, feel free to throw them out the window. But every DM we just talked about develops these strategies to keep their players engaged, and it works for them. And there's one common theme throughout all these tips, and that's that it's never about the DM themselves. Murph draws attention to combat. Aabria draws attention to the environment. Brennan draws attention to roles. And Matt, well, he's drawing his players' attention to each other. And that's the thing to take away here, because often it feels like these live actual play shows are so entertaining and fun because of the way their DM engages with their players. How intense they are, how funny they are, how good their accents are. But in reality, a lot of that stuff isn't for their players. You can do it and the players might enjoy it, but they turn it up to 11 on these shows for the audience, for the hundreds of thousands of potential viewers they might have. But you don't need to do that in your home games. You can do it if you want, but know that your players haven't shown up at your house on D&D night to be entertained by you. They showed up for a D&D game with friends. So do like all the DMs do in this video. Don't draw attention to you. Draw attention to the combat, the scene, the roles, and the players. And there's actually something else I think can really pull your players in, making your game a lot more high stakes. And that's by using these new exhaustion rules that are perfect if you ever wanted to give your players more of a challenge without having to remember too many rules or potentially accidentally killing them all. So watch this video next.